Hello everyone. Welcome back to Warm Embers. I am here with Nanibaah. She is an amazing soulful singer. If you have not heard her, get out there, get on her account, go listen to her music. I just absolutely love her. She is phenomenal, community based. She has the best heart. Um, Thank you, Nanibaah, for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Nanibaah. I'm a jazz and soul artist from the Four Corners area of the Southwest, and I'm Navajo. I'm from the Dine'é Nation. Full blood day.
Ah! She's 4/4, everybody.
Yeah.
So welcome. Thank you for being here. So I'm also from the Fruitland San Juan chapter in the house. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, hey. Okay. I grew up in Farmington there.
Okay, yes. I love going back home.
There.
But yes.
Yeah.
And we have so many of us there, and the fact that you are a soulful singer. I have not met another soulful dine'é singer, and we have like state line country music. We have it's GOTM, the monuments or something. They're very like hardcore, but I'm excited and happy that we have a soulful singer. So what inspired you? What sparked that creativity and led you to that genre?
So I grew up in church
Okay.
and equally in church and NAC.
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
So music was always a part of my life. And my father had a band. I grew up in a band, touring and traveling for shows. I was a roadie when I was a kid. And
Oh, look at you. You were like carrying around the equipment, getting the wires
yeah,
together.
I've, I've always been surrounded by music, no matter what it is, any kind. And I think that's where that love of just kind of like willing to try anything, the
Uh-huh.
willingness to try soul, to try jazz, to try rap, blues, R&B, whatever it be, it's just because I've just been taught, through example, that we embrace all kinds of music,
Yeah.
and so so yeah, I just really took a lot of inspiration from my family and just, they would sing every day, play music every day. Like they didn't care if they were on a stage, they didn't care if people were watching, they didn't care if they were good or bad or what, it's just you play, it's what we do. It's like breathing, that's how it
Oh,
feels for me.
I
So
love that. That it's just like second nature to you is singing. That's so cool. So was there one um musician that kind of guided your voice to say, I want to sing like them?
um Aretha Franklin.
Ooh,
So Aretha Franklin, we kind of have like I relate to her a lot because she was a gospel singer growing up too.
uh-huh.
And being very religious, very strict, you know, strict rules that you had to go by. And the most importantly, like a lot of people really tried to speak for her and her gifts.
Uh-huh.
And she was able to, obtain confidence and ownership in the end. And that inspired me a lot. And I love her voice. I remember singing and recording myself little videos on Tumblr and
Ah.
Facebook when I was younger in middle school, and I would make videos and I would always listen to it and I'd always be like so upset and insecure, and I just sometimes I even cry because I was just like, I don't sound good. Like I don't sound like how I want to sound. And I didn't know that, voices mature. I didn't know about that yet. So I was just like, I keep trying to sound like this lady and I can't sound like this lady. So
Mhm.
somehow, you spend all your time trying to sound like this lady, and then, boom, I hit, 2022, and like my voice just completely, shaped itself. And so I love her. Yeah, probably Aretha.
That's so awesome. I love how you did your research into who she was And I think also when it comes to as an artist, sometimes we could be our own worst critic, that we've created something and it's just like, this is not how I wanted it to be. But and we also rely on the input of people from the outside of what we've created. So that can also be hard. How do you overcome that? How do you kind of just like, I know my talents and
How
um
do I overcome?
just kind of like feeling like I'm not really sure about what I'm putting out into the world, even though you love it. Like as artists, it's like because we're sharing our craft and our creativity with the world, and then just getting past that, like, should I post this or not? How do you get past that apprehension and just post it?
Um, well, as artists, like we have to we have to understand and be confident in that identity that nobody can do what we can do. Nobody can recreate what I've just made because no one has my mind. No one has my brain. No one has my thoughts. No one has my spirit, you know? So it's
Mm.
like that. Like, it's like you might not like it, but how many people say they don't like country, but then like the whole world loves country, you know? So it's like it's kind of like that. It's like, okay, well, it just might not be for you, you know? And even sometimes for me, like if I make a song that I don't like, you know, straight up, like I know I'm not gonna enjoy singing that, so I'm just not gonna finish that song. I'm not gonna work on it. I could save it and gift it to someone else, you know. The thought's there, I don't think that like there's any bad creative ideas. I don't think there's any bad ones. I think it's just how we move them, and sometimes they're not always meant for us. Our talents, our skills, they're gifts, and those are meant to be given, So,
I love that. That is beautiful, that way of thinking. Like we are gifted these skill set and then to share them with the world. Because a lot of times there is story and meaning behind what we've created, and that's what we need to share with the world because it could change somebody's life or create a movement. So
yeah.
that's
We're
perfect.
always, I feel like we're already blessed with so much, like we're blessed with too much life, air, land, water. We have our families, we have our skills, our talents. We can move our arms,
Yeah, that's
we're
right.
not hidden, so it's like we have too much to be thankful for to not be selfless, So it's like, yeah, it's just
Yes.
art world, it's just art.
I love that. That is grounding, bringing us back to like who we are, our place in the world, to community, to always be uplifting our community, to be open. I love that. So, can you tell me what's the story behind White Peach?
So White peach. I'm actually very transparent with this.
Okay.
We're gonna get right into it. So I wrote White Peach when I just moved here to Phoenix, and I was 21, turning 22. 22, I think I was. Yeah, 22. And I was just kind of going through a rough patch. Like alcoholism really took over my life at that time, really, really bad. And I was going through a breakup. It was my first ever breakup. Like I'd
Oh.
never dated anyone before, and so like I was just real down bad. And I got pulled over and I got a DUI, and I had to sit in a cell that night for like
Oh
three
man.
days.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I wrote White Peach in jail.
Well, if that isn't a blues artist story, I
But
don't know what is. Uh-huh.
yeah, but how many? Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not I'm not an activist. I'm not an influencer. I'm not an advocate, Like I'm an artist, and
Uh-huh.
I would hope that my music, would people would hear it and like it, but the impact, like that's not up to me, So like I just kind of write whatever. It's
Yeah.
almost like Amy Winehouse, she writes about a lot of bittersweet moments, times, experiences, and especially like interactions with people, and like that's kind of what I wanted to do because I just feel like in this modern world, yes, spirituality is very important and it carries us a long way, but we also live amongst, modern times, Western society. Like we have alcohol, we have technology now, we have, cigarettes, we have jobs, we have money. So it's like I don't really see too many people, singing about that, about right now. Like people tell us all the time, like, go pray, like just pray, but it's like, how, like how, like this is the current situation, you know? And so that's kind of what I was trying to do was like, like hyperfixate on the alcoholism, coming out of it, being at the pit, being at the bottom. Because people see me on stage and they see me and like they're always like, you're just so sweet and you're small and your voice is big, like we love you, but it's like also at the same time, like my voice is so strong because, of whatever I had to go through to get there, you know. So like that's why it's just all the experiences. So White Peach was like one of the very first songs I wrote solo about me, for me, I just kind of was like at the bottom, So yeah, there was no one else there with me too. And so that was a big eye opener for me. And White Peach has really like just the whole writing process, recording process, and like bringing that song to life has like really healed me.
Ooh, yes. So I feel like you're touching on a point where a lot of times artists really sing from life experience. Like
Yeah.
sometimes people have a singer or songwriters for them, so they didn't experience that, but they
I
try.
was gonna say that
Yeah, to where
ghostwriters exist too. Yeah.
yes. And the fact that you are sharing from your lived experience is so important as an artist because you can't fake that. And when you are singing it, it comes across in your voice and your connectedness with the lyrics that you've created. And it's so beautiful. And I think that's the most important is like you are singing from a lived experience. You've been out there, you've experienced these things, and now you're translating it through song for us to hear. And when we hear you, like you could just hear that connection. Your voice is so good.
Yeah. And I think it also like really like displays, how much I really rely on music, because like I said, like at that time, in that time, like there was nobody there for me, there was like no one in there with me, no one, helping me or anything like that, it was just me and myself. And so it's like, even in that time, just sitting in there and like, you already feel terrible, you know what I mean? Like you're just all jotty sitting in there, like, like,
Oh,
and
yes.
even in that time, music, music was the only thing that I could cling to, that would make me feel normal or safe or even just loved. So,
Oh, that's a very poignant part where you talk about music is basically like your go-to was your life raft because a lot of times we can be in situations where we have feel like we don't have anybody in life. Like I've had that where with my parents were so much in their addictions that I learned unhealthy coping mechanisms just
mhm,
through family. And then at some points in my life, I get so down on myself that
mhm,
it's hard to pull yourself out. But the fact that we can rely on ourselves and say, even if it's just like through God telling us, like saying the creator's telling us, like, remember this or whatever, like you have music or I have like like I have to like climb out of it with positive thoughts or praying for other people that helps me too. But the fact that you have music and that's such a beautiful gift for you.
mhm. Yeah. So I would just hope that, people that can't sing, people that don't sing, people that don't make music, that they would still be able to cling to that song, the same way that I did, at least feel or like I'm not trying to like make them relive my experience, but just like, you know, in a way recreate that feeling of, you know, just support, I guess.
Yeah. So you should like applause for you for pulling yourself out of that too, out of you knew you were going towards alcoholism and then just like pulling back. That is really
Yeah.
good. Great
And I
job.
will say, like, I'm very, very, very blessed to have grown up with, two sober parents my whole life, sober
Uh-huh.
grandparents, sober family, and it's just, I think it's important, to even touch on mental health because my mental health is what really drove me there, after I moved away from home. It wasn't something that was generational or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I just wanted to briefly highlight
Yeah,
that.
that's good though. Thank you for highlighting that. That's so cool. That you had that experience, especially with the Native American church, you know. The people next to us, they had the Native American church, and then they would put up the teepee and then we could hear them singing and stuff. I was always interested though. I was like, oh, well,
Mhm.
that's super cool. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a long, long line of medicine. My Che is a roadman. And so
Oh,
yeah, my family has ran that fire for a long time. So I
well,
really, yeah, that's kind of where I come from, is the NAC initially.
yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so let's get into your music.
Yeah. So, like I said, like everything up until this point has been collaborative.
Uh-huh.
I Right now I'm learning how to play the guitar, I'm learning how to play the piano. I'm trying to buy a banjo at some point
Oh,
soon, and I'm really trying to like hone in on like my musician side. I'm not a musician. I don't play any instruments. I never have. And well, I will now, but yeah, so ever since I started learning, I've been writing songs,
uh-huh.
and same kind of the same topics and same things. I just feel very strongly. My dad, like I said, I grew up with sober parents, but right now, and I guess after I turned 18, my dad fell into alcoholism. So, he's an alcoholic right now. And so that's kind of why I feel very like strongly about it, and I write a lot, that talks about those things, even talks about like, I wrote this song on this project, it's unreleased. It's called Play a Bar. There's a bar out here in Arizona called Play a Bar, and it sits kind of borders the Salt River Pima Reservation. And, I used to go there all the time. And I
Uh-huh.
used to always see all the natives from here in Phoenix there, and
Uh-huh.
all the Pimas, Tohono O'odham, and Apaches, Navajos, you name it.
Uh-huh.
And there's some Sioux in there, eh?
Ah.
And so like even going there, like meeting people, hearing their story, I wasn't always drinking at the playa bar. Sometimes I just go to see the people because that was kind
Yes.
of in a way turned into my community here. I'm not
Mhm.
from Phoenix, but they were people that, you know, genuinely, not even in their right state of mind, were looking out for me. That like elderly folks, that have been at this place since the 80s, every single night, and
Uh-huh.
I walk up in there and they're just like, what are you doing in here? Like, you're a little shoot, eh? You're a little jotty and you need to get out. Like, you don't belong in here. The amount of times those aunties would be all, just like, you don't belong in here, you need to go home, like,
Uh-huh.
you don't need to be in here, They're like, we're in here every night. We've been in here every night since the 90s. Like, we ain't never seen nobody that looks like you walk up in here. Like, you need to get out.
Uh-huh.
Well, they'll turn me away. The bartenders will turn you away if you look like someone that's good.
They're
They're
like,
native. They're native, so they know.
yes, they're
So
looking
like,
out for you. How cute.
yeah. So I wrote that song about them,
Uh-huh.
and just like that's the dark side of Native culture. That's the dark side of our stereotype. Even we ourselves shun and shame those people out of their bodies, you know, we're guilty
Yeah.
of it as well. The
That's true.
Glanies, like
Lonnie. Yeah, just even that
we're
name, right?
yeah, and we're also equally responsible. Not 100%, but we are partially responsible for, you know, continuing that, by shaming them, by, not uplifting each other. You know what I mean? And so it's like that's what I wanted to write about. That's what I wanted to choose to write about was the outcasted parts, the not so pretty parts, the not so hojo parts. That's why
Yes.
in the playa bar, that's why I put the hairpiece on top of my head.
Uh-huh.
That's why all the pieces of our traditional wear are in all these different places, out of place that they shouldn't be, is because that's what playa bar, the song is written about, is all the disorder, of us, of what I see in community, things
Yes,
that I
speak
don't
it.
like, things that are spiteful to me, like that's what I write about, the things that people don't want to talk about, that you don't want to hear, that, it's too sensitive or not the right time, not the right place, you know what I mean? But,
Yes.
when I'm put on the stage, I'm the only person with the mic in my hand. So that tells me that it is the time and the place. So yeah, but I've just been trying to work on that. That's the main song for that project. I love that project, and
Oh,
I have 5 songs that I'm writing right now and trying to polish up and also collaborate with other people and get their input. Like I have a lot of very, very talented friends, natives, non-natives, all over the place. And I'm sure they would love to, have some sort of input or support on this project. I have one song on there that I made with Keith Secola.
oh.
So that'll be it's called Desert Moon.
Uh-huh.
And so we're working on that together as well. So that'll be coming out on that project. But like I said, like I'm not in a rush. I
Uh-huh.
I spent about the past like 2 years, working, or I want to say 3, 4 years working on just Earth Surface People's projects, writing songs for those albums, for other people. So it's like that's why I'm just like I barely ended that chapter and closed that chapter and started a new season with writing this project. So that's why I'm like it's very, 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 very fresh. And I know I've been singing a long time, but it is important for people to understand that I haven't been writing songs my whole life. I've only been writing songs for, the past 2 years. So, and now I'm barely playing instruments this year. So it's like
Uh-huh.
I'm still very new, even though I seem advanced.
Yes, I think that just speaks to your skill set. So the fact that you can pick up something and then start playing it to what's in your mind or what you're hearing in your ear to say this is how I want it to sound without having the formal training and it sounds amazing is just a total gift. So
Mhm. Thank
yeah.
you. I
Hmm.
appreciate that.
Yes, it is. But oh yeah. So to go back to what you were saying about the not hojo part, I think that is beautiful because um when I grew up with this dysfunction that I saw all kinds of like Kalani behavior and that was like I carried that shame and I think that and it wasn't even mine, right? I was just like a kid. And then but you see all these things happening and even the people who were turning you away and were like, "No, you don't want to be part of this." Them living in like feeling outcasted from the community or feeling the shame or it's just like that is a part of community, that is a part of life, that is a part of people's journey, and the fact that you're capturing it in this song, I'm sure when they hear it will kind of make them feel maybe walk a little bit towards healing or just
Mhm.
giving space to have that conversation. I think is so important, and the fact that you're putting it in a song is beautiful.
Yeah. Because it's like people don't want to talk about it, but when they hear the song, they want to talk about the song. And
Mhm.
that gives me an opportunity to open up space to talk about those deeper, you know, topics and intentions. So that's kind of how I gritted it out. It's very intentional. I try
Mhm.
to live very intentional with what I do. Everything I put out, everything I write, I say, like it's how I am. So it's like that's why I'm just like there was a plan, it's like
Yeah.
it's a plan to, have all these conversations, and like you said, like you even felt shame, with shame that wasn't even yours. And it's important for people to understand that it's not just alcoholism that is generational. Shame is as well. Shame,
Yes.
hate, and bitterness, like that's generational as well. If it's alcoholism and shame, they're
Mm-hmm.
both spiritual, you know, they're both in
Yes.
things that we feel. So it's like, I don't know. I just,
No, no, it's good conversation pieces because it's giving space and which can allow for healing for some people. And the fact that you were highlighting how Western society put on us this thing about like, oh, they're drunks, they're this, they're that. And then if somebody has taken on the identity, like, oh, well, they think that of me anyways, so I'm just gonna do it. But in reality, I feel like with this podcast, I want to have these conversations that we can really examine these stereotypes and say, wait a second, no, we're contemporary or we're native artists or that is what Western society's point of view. That's not really who we are. We're spiritualists or we're singer-songwriters or we're all of these different people on this spectrum, and that we should not be labeled by what Western or American think of us. We're not like these people who live in teepees and like yeah, that's what really the conversations I like to have on here. So let's get into finding community in unexpected places because you were discussing your collaborative album and all of the different people you've worked with and how you found community.
so I started working with Earth Service people in 2020 or 2021. Um, I was working at Starbucks in Farmington,
Oh,
and I hated my job.
uh-huh.
Absolutely hated that job. And, Dakota called me and was like, or messaged me and was like, hey, like, we can, our singer dropped out or something, and we have to record this album tomorrow. And he's like, if you'll fly here, then we'll let you record the whole album. So that's kind of how it worked. And it was definitely a blessing in disguise. I like to think that, my whole life I've been highly favored in some way, you
Mhm.
know,
Yes.
and so I was looking for an opportunity like that to be able to, you know, record in a studio for the first time, or, like I'd always watched my dad do those things. I never got to do it. And bless his heart. So so that was like the first time ever where I was like, oh my God, I could get in a studio. Like I could put something out, with a full band already done.
Oh my
Sounds like a
gosh.
sweet deal, right?
Yes.
So that's why I came to Phoenix and met Earth Service people, their band, and we just kind of ran it for a few years, and it did really good. Like we played well, and sold out shows, packed out places, like played a lot of arts museums, very prestigious, places. So it's like it's really cool. And just to go that far, with what you're saying, like finding community in unexpected places, we didn't know we would all get along that well. You know what I mean? And it just kind of,
Uh-huh.
me and Dakota wound up being uh, related. So that was cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I just try to be very, not outgoing, but more so, just aware of where to insert myself. I'm not gonna go into a room and sit in the corner. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna stand in a circle and not be a part of the conversation. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I like to be involved, included. I'm very good at just connecting with people. And I never meet a stranger because I'm always like I just love to talk. I love to talk to people. I love getting to know people quick,
Uh-huh.
and I like to make people laugh. I'm known for being very funny. So like that's kind of yeah, that's kind of how I create community is just, making people laugh and kind of breaking the ice a little bit for everyone, especially if the room is awkward, like I'm usually the one that'll break the ice. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
That's important. I feel the same way because
I
I
spent
have
too long as the red shy girl. So I'm done with that.
Oh my God, at your young age, that's so important. Most of my life, I was the shy girl. People would be like, "You're so quiet." But really, I'm not. I'm like, I like to make people laugh too, but it's so important to be kind and gracious. And but also have your boundaries, right? But
Like to get crunk.
yes, I think that's so cool. That's such a gift to go in and be like, "Hey, everybody, I'm Nanibaah. Let me make you
Yeah.
laugh."
That's- yeah. Well, it's like you don't go into a teepee and not shake everyone's hand.
True. Yes. Uh-huh.
That's we're taught that. So why
Yes.
should it change? You're walking into a room of relatives. Why should that change?
Yes.
It's just how it is. I'll shake my enemy's hand. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not like that. So
There's this I guess because every different tribes have different customs and traditions. And I went around to shake everybody's hand because that's what I was taught. And then this man started laughing at me. And I was like, "Why are you laughing?" And he goes, "Oh, you're shaking everybody's hand like you're a man." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
well, I'm not a man at Navajo,
Yeah,
so
I know. Then that, what do you mean?
I'm better.
Yes, that's too funny. I'm better from Okay, so let's get into the fashion shows and hair. I went to the Super Chief uh fashion show in LA and you were there and
I
you
went.
were phenomenal. You killed it with your song. It was such a beautiful moment having the people walk and then you were singing live and then you did the hair there too, which was so
Yeah.
cool.
So yeah, I do hair. I needed money and I needed it fast and I'm good at braiding hair, braided hair my whole life.
Uh-huh.
Um, I learned that um there's a lot of braiders that won't braid straight hair, sleek hair, because it's more strenuous on your hands.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, like my friend got turned away by a braider in a salon because her hair was long and straight, native girl.
Uh-huh.
And so that was kind of like my like light bulb where I was like ding 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 ding. And I was like, duh. They probably can't find no braiders for these shows. And so
Uh-huh.
that's when I was like posting everything, trying to do it as much as I can. So I guess referring to your question a little bit, like I don't make hair pieces. So the
Okay.
hair pieces at that fashion show were made by my cousin, Kristen
Okay.
Jim at Kristen Jim Hair.
Okay.
And so we partnered here and there for a few shows and she's amazing. She's a native hairdresser here in Phoenix. She travels everywhere. She's definitely licensed, very professional. And I kind of just wanted to get the ins, make sure she got in there, somehow. And I know everyone in there. So that's why I was like, let me braid hair really quick and help you and we'll partner this out, get you gigs, and then I'll do some music stuff again. You know what I mean? So I kind of
Yeah.
switched out. I'm also a chef, so I cook
No way.
here in Phoenix.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I do like demos, pop-ups, private dinners, those sort of things. I work here at the Frybird Lounge in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's the
Okay.
first native-owned restaurant in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Ooh,
And next door is
bougie.
also the first native-owned art gallery and market in Scottsdale, Arizona. So that's beautiful.
Yes.
But yeah, so I just try to pick different lanes to go in, you know what I mean? Like, well, growing up, like my mom always had us, making banana bread, making Kool-Aid seeds, making beading earrings, sewing bags. Like, we're always doing something, She's just always like, you always have to know how to do something because one day, there's going to be no jobs, there's going to be no this, no that, and you're going to have to learn how to do something. So
Uh-huh.
that's why that's kind of how I think now, it's like, well, I can't just sing, like I gotta learn how to do all these other things. What if I get sick? What if I have to go through surgery one day? Like gotta know how to do something and accommodate, to all of those everything that comes up. Just gotta be ready. So
Yeah.
that's where braiding falls in line. I
Okay.
love it, man. Like
Yeah.
it's been really cool, like just traveling and meeting people. You get to meet people up close. You get to meet
Yes.
people personal when you're doing their hair, their makeup. Like it's really cool, and it made me see certain artists, models, whoever, in a different way, than just modeling or looking pretty. You know what I mean? Like it really, like I learned like some of these girls are really smart, like really educated, degrees, like they run things. And so that was cool, where I was like, oh, they're not just like just models, you know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
these girls like they do stuff, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like breeding.
Yes. I feel like you're collecting stories along the way too that will probably go into your music in the future. That's so
Yeah. And
good.
I've met people that like love my music, I've met
Mhm.
supporters and fans doing hair where they're just like no way you're doing my hair, and like that's cool.
Yes. That is cool. That's cool that you do all these things. I feel like that's very Dine'é trait. Like you can't just sit around, just go do something, like get busy.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for noticing that because
Yes.
that's literally where I come from, Like I
Mhm.
always had to be doing something, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what's your favorite thing to make in your cooking pop-ups?
So, I'm really good at making like stews.
Ooh.
Stews, any kind of stew, it's easy, it's good, it tastes always tastes good.
Hmm.
Um, but anything that's like in some way like traditional cooking,
Hmm.
I'm all for it, like I'm all for it because I have this internal thought and opinion that like all these industrial kitchens, like Michelin chefs, like all that stuff, like they just think they're so amazing, but it's like, but you have all these tools, you have all
Uh-huh.
these great industrial kitchens and tools, and it's like, but even though you're training me, you could never walk into my home and make what you just made. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
it's like, man, like you're standing in front of someone, being like led and trained by someone who has no idea how long it took for you to get there in order for them to be there,
Yes.
telling you what to do. We
Uh-huh.
just took outside, we got the fire going, we taught people how, to be, you know, sustainable, how to skills, you know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
now fast forward, decades later, we're in an industrial kitchen, and there's a chef teaching us everything. We just flip the switch and it's on. And it's like I think about that, and I'm just like, traditional kitchen or traditional kitchens and traditional cooking all the way because it doesn't get any more gourmet than that. It doesn't get any more made from scratch than that.
Yes. That sounds so delicious. I miss the mutton stew back home with the potatoes and the carrots and the meat.
I just served neshiji at the restaurant this past weekend
Really?
for Indigenous Peoples Day.
Uh-huh. Oh
Hmm.
my gosh, that sounds so good. Good job. I think about that too, like how um Europeans were the guests, right? And then the natives were like, this is what you should eat. This is what we've been up to. Here you go. We were very community sharing, sharing. And then one day it's just like, and they're kicking everybody off the land and then taking over. Like, that's the same thing I think about sometimes. How you were saying, like,
Yeah.
traditional cooking, and then now you're Michelin star.
They
Yeah.
kind of just messed it all up, and then
Oh,
now we're here and they're coming back and they're like, man, I have this idea. What if what if we fought for climate? And I'm just like, you fought against climate this whole time. What are
I
you talking?
know.
Like
Oh
what?
my gosh. It's like you made the problem and now you want to make this feel
you're
like you
you're
make the
your own
solution.
enemy. Yeah, you were your own
Yes.
enemy this whole time.
Yes. So
We'll be cherry.
I've
I'm
never
like,
been
we'll be cherry.
I've never been to a Michelin star. So I don't well, okay, so my issue is that like I'm gonna pay $150 for like this much food. Like, I don't know, that's okay.
Yeah, it's better if you go somewhere for the experience. Restaurants that offer an experience are better, you're more willing to pay that price for. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the smoke tops, the table side things, like the cute little, whatever it be. So it's just like that's what I that's my opinion is like I'm more willing to pay for an experience rather than just the food. If I'm just getting the
Yes.
food, then I'm like, I don't want to pay $100 for this plate. You know what I mean? So I
Uh-huh.
feel the same way too.
Yeah.
Like I know in Scottsdale they have a restaurant. It's not that costly. But the waiters are robots.
No way. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But I would pay for that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, I will have
See?
to check out your place and then that place too next time I go to
See? You're
Phoenix.
proving my point.
Yes, I'm like, okay, well, I can
Yeah.
do that. That's funny. Okay, so what's next for you? I know you have a whole life ahead of you because you're super young and you're collecting stories, but in the next few years, what's next for you?
Myself. I'm just right now I am trying to focus on the music and what it's going to take to get there. I don't want shortcuts. I don't want, like I'm someone who very much wants to go through the whole process. So I know everything. I don't like being cheated. I don't like being left out of the loop. I don't like being sitting in a conversation and I don't know what they're talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like trying to, you know, in my free time, like I'm asking friends that are already signed, like, hey, like, what's your advice on this? You know what I mean? Or like, when was a time like someone presented, a deal to you and, what are the numbers looking like? What's a good number? What's a bad number? What's a good percentage? Should I even take a record deal? I've been managing myself since I was like 13, 14 years old and I'm doing pretty damn good at it. So it's,
Yeah.
do I even need a manager? Do I even need a record label? Because if you get a record label, it could go either way. You know what I mean? And most of the time you wound up in debt. So it's like, people think you get that advancement and you keep that money. No, you get that advancement and you pay that back through whatever it is that you produce and profit with your shows, tours, music, streams, ownership of the music, it's a lot to think about. It's a lot to learn the industry, just to go into it is crazy, unless you have a manager or someone who speaks for you. And usually that's how it is. That's how it like goes, it's like even now, there's a lot of native artists that have managers,
Mhm.
and there's a lot that don't. And some of their managers are non-natives. That's something that doesn't sit well with me. So
Yeah.
I don't want a manager who's not native, because you're not going to understand me or where I'm coming from, you know.
Yes.
You're not going to know how to fight for me. And so that's why in the next 2 years, I'm just pretty much like trying to educate myself as much as I can, through traveling and meeting new people, working with new people. I'm going to start a kind of like an apprenticeship under another native chef. and she's amazing. Her chef. No, I don't want to say, but um, I'm gonna start under her this year, and she's
Uh-huh.
gonna teach me a lot, about fine dining, gourmet, traveling. I'm trying to expand my, skills. I've done a lot of catering. I've done a lot of cooking, restaurants. Um, there's only 14 native-owned restaurants in the U.S. and Canada, but that I've worked at four of them.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
Okay.
like that's something that I'm passionate about as well. So it's like that's kind of what's next for me is just learning more and more and more and more. It's just like knowledge is so free. So it's like I really don't. You're kind of dumb if you're just like not gonna do anything. So or at least pick up some knowledge on the way. So yeah.
Yes. I totally agree with you. Like to learn something, like you just like you're asking people or it's available on YouTube. And then also learning how the music industry works, I think is so important. Like I
Mhm.
watched that movie with was it NWA? Where they were showing how they got ripped off and all that stuff. I was like, that's so messed up. And then in today's situation, like you could be on TikTok and then take off and then all of a sudden your music blows up. So that's another way. There's so many
Yeah.
different avenues, and the fact that you're exploring them
Yeah.
all is so smart.
And I don't want to wound up with a ghostwriter either. And
Yes.
that's what a lot of people are running into now. A lot of songs that you hear today aren't written by that artist. So it's like I don't want that's another form of being spoken for. I
Hmm.
don't want someone writing my song. I don't want other people, especially, non-natives telling a native woman's story
Yes.
and writing it for her, like
Uh-huh.
that doesn't set well. So like I think about all the possibilities there are. I know people are if I go in there and I'm all uneducated, people are gonna use me as a puppet, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Say I'm only like what, the third or fourth native to make it into the mainstream industry, you know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
very fresh to them,
Yeah.
and they don't even know what to do with that because they don't know nothing about natives. They just know what they see on TV. So
Yep.
that's how they're going to present you to the world.
Exactly what you're saying right there. I was talking with, because I was like, for the podcast and also my art, I was like, oh, do I need to hire a branding person? So I was talking with someone and they were non-native. And then they were like, well, can I say this or can I say that? And I was like, the fact that you're trying to assume these things about Native Americans just tells me how uneducated you are and how ignorant you are. And that means that our voices need to take up more space. So I'm like, because you wouldn't say that about an Asian person or African American person. Like you would know what to say, but for us, you don't even know. And then the person was like, yeah, well, you're right. And I don't think we're the agency to work with you. Like,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So it's yeah, what you're saying is so good that you want to be the person or have a native person work with you because
I don't
then
want
who
to go
knows
in
us?
there and just, yeah, I don't want to go in there and be just lucky to be there because I'm native and I'm the first native. No, I want to go in there and re educate everybody. I want to go in there and be the first ever person to educate all these people, about the culture. Like, it's like where music ties to
Yes.
natives. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Where like our bridges. They know where their bridges between the black community, between the Latin community, Asian, you name it. They know
Yes.
those bridges,
Uh-huh.
they've walked them so many times. But with natives, that's just hasn't happened yet. The opportunity hasn't been spawned yet, and that's okay. But I don't want there to be too many people before me to write that story before I even get there.
Yes. I
You
love
know.
that point.
So that's why I'm trying to push and push and just educate, 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 educate. Music, rights, you know,
Hmm.
where I fall in line, me as a native, how do I fall into their world? If people, I feel like we pride ourselves sometimes, we forget that we have to be humble and teachable, that we've always been a people that teach other people and each other new things. you know.
Yes.
Well, that's always been who we are, you
Uh-huh.
know.
It's beautiful. What you were saying was great. Okay, so let's jump into the three rapid fire questions. So, okay, three rapid fire questions. What is your go-to song to sing when you're all by yourself?
When I'm all by myself,
Yes. Nobody's around. It's just you chilling. What's your go-to?
I'm not gonna lay around and whine and moan, 'cause somebody done me wrong. Don't think for a minute that I'm gonna sit around and sing some old sad song. Here for a Good Time by George Strait.
Oh my God. So good. Ah, your voice. Music to my ears, as they say.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so what is your most treasured thing in your makeup kit?
My most treasured thing in my makeup kit, my lip
Mm,
gloss.
okay,
I
yes.
only wear lip gloss. I
I
wear lip
know.
gloss and gel on my brows, and that's it.
Yes, I was looking at on your video. I was like, dang, I wonder what lip gloss she uses because it looks so good.
It's a brown. I use brown lip gloss, like a dark,
Ooh.
deep brown. And
Uh-huh.
then you save more, honestly, because I feel like with the red ones, the pink ones, you have to put more on, you
Uh-huh.
know,
Yeah.
and more. But with the brown one, like it's already so dark that it just, the color stays for longer.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
See, there you go. You are so brilliant. I said you're always thinking about these things. That's so good. Okay,
Thanks.
so if you could duet with anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be?
Chris Stapleton.
Ooh, okay. Would you do I'd rather go blind? I heard you
No,
sing that.
I mean I could, but I love his song Daddy Doesn't Pray Anymore.
Oh, that
That one's good. There's like harmonies in it. I
uh-huh.
love Chris Stapleton. He's an amazing songwriter. Just
Okay.
very not talked about enough, you know.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was his own songwriter. That's good to know. Because you never know. I feel like once they get to this certain echelon, people start writing for them.
Yeah, yeah. There's a good handful of artists. It's usually the newer artists, when they first start out,
Uh-huh.
that's when they have a whole team of songwriters, ghostwriters is what they call them. And they'll come in and write the song for them. Or sometimes songs are gifted ways, like that song Snooze by SZA.
Uh-huh.
I believe Leon Thomas wrote that song. I don't want to be wrong, but um, he was going to give it to another artist, Babyface or something, and then he wound up giving it to SZA, and so she sang that song, but it
Uh-huh.
wasn't like she already had ghostwriters. It was just like he just made that song for someone else, and it fit with her. So
Yeah.
there's also those routes. So yeah.
That's so awesome. You're giving us insight into the music industry. I love it. Well,
Thanks.
Nanibaah, this has been such a pleasure. I love speaking with you, learning about you, hearing your words of wisdom, dropping knowledge on us. Thank you for your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And go check out that album with Earth Service people. It's called Yagodoklish. I wrote a good handful of those songs. And just keep on the lookout for more stuff. I'm always posting, I'm always creating. Yeah.
Yes, awesome.
Creating and singing, all of it. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too.